Hi Virgo, welcome to your May 2019 General Tarot reading. It's Raina here, and I'm just shuffling the cards, obviously, from behind the camera. I think I'm just going to, instead of laying them down, I'm just going to go like this, just from, I was shuffling, and I'll pick a card and then I shuffle again. Okay, got a couple of kings. I have this book where it says if there are 2 kings in the reading, 3 kings, it's kind of interesting. I should dig that out and see, what they say, because they actually have, depending on how many of one court card you have, it's supposed to mean a certain thing. I don't know if they do it with more than just the kings or queens, and the kings and queens. But in any case, the heart of the matter is the Death card, and for me, so the Death card is a card of transformation, and oh, it's interesting. I hadn't noticed the sun is in the background. Isn't that interesting? And so it's interesting that the sun is in the background, because the sun represents our will, I feel like. Well, I mean, you could say Mars represents our will, but the sun is the essence of our being in this lifetime. Your sun sign, what that represents for you, Virgo. And so anything that doesn't go along with that, and if you are very much connected to who you are as an individual, but specifying as a Virgo person, then that has to fall by the wayside. And that's really what the Death card represents, is kind of like the excess, what doesn't fit, what doesn't serve the person anymore. It's all, it's a card of transformation. And so what is going on in your life in May, Virgo, that would kind of go along with this? Are you going through a major transition? That you can see, even if you're watching this in April, in late April? Do you anticipate something that is going to be changing drastically in your life? And really, that's a good thing, because you don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to not change. It's just that in that process, of course, there is that sense of trepidation, because it's not something that is always a guarantee. We don't know if we are going into a new area, if it's going to be what we hope it will be. And by the way, that's what the Death card also represents, is something new coming in. So it's the end of an old situation, the end of an era, and therefore the beginning of a new situation. In the past position, we have the King of Swords, and this is a card that can talk about some kind of a legal decision that has been rendered, and therefore is leading to this with the Death card. Now, with the Death card, it's possible that this is some kind of a probate issue, where somebody who has died in the past, there has been some kind of fight for, the inheritance. And therefore, this is kind of what has been front and center in your life. And again, another possibility is a divorce. That's the other big one. And the Death card in that case can mean the death of a dream, the death of a marriage that maybe you thought was going to last forever and it didn't. So there may be mixed emotions within that decision. Also with the King of Swords, if this is a facet of you, Virgo, you have had to be kind of impassionate. You've had to not allow your feelings to get the best of you as you've had to navigate perhaps a difficult situation. And the Death card is connected to Scorpio. So if this is a literal Scorpio, oh, it's funny, we do have a full moon in Scorpio in May, so perhaps there's some kind of like timing issue with that as well. Who knows? The higher message is the Strength card. Whenever I hold that card with my right hand, it's always a shadow. And the Strength card is a card connected to Leo, and it is a card that deals with, you know, in some cases, since this is a spiritual message, about really kind of keeping your strength, which means that you want to preserve your immune system, preserve your energy levels. So if you have been somebody that has been under a lot of stress because of a particular issue, Virgo, then you want to be very mindful about your body so that you don't allow yourself to get run down. I have a moon in Virgo, and I know that Virgo as an energy can be quite high-strung, can be very, you know, very almost like atypical for an earth sign, in that there is this kind of like, you know, because it's the ruler of your sign is Mercury. So that mercurial influence is, you know, can make somebody with a prominent Virgo worry a lot, be very, you know, have a lot of thoughts going on in their head. And you have to be able to give yourself that kind of, you know, what the Strength card represents is to kind of build up your strength, I would say, as a spiritual message. And this is done in two ways, through physical means as well as the energetic or spiritual means. So that physically, by trying to be mindful of what you eat, your habits, you know, getting enough sleep, all that stuff that we already know about, but also energetically by understanding who is draining your energy, not allowing that, because you may have a lot on your plate that you have to kind of get through, and you need that, you need as much strength as you can muster. The higher message is represented, the card that represents the challenge is the Ace of Wands. This is a card that really does speak about new, enthusiastic beginnings, and I always like associate it with the spring, which in the Northern Hemisphere we are underway with. And this is a card to me of new beginnings. They're very individualistic with the wands. In other words, you forging your own path on your own terms. So if you're coming from a divorce, that sense of autonomy, you know, that's so delicious when you have been under somebody else's thumb, kind of having to answer to somebody else. It's so nice to have that sense of I can do whatever I want when I want, you know, and that can feel really good. But this is a challenge position. So for some reason, you still have some things to iron out, and like not being able to get going fully. By the way, the Strength card is connected to Leo. I think I mentioned that. So if there is a Leo person in your life, or somebody, you know, in the spiritual position. This may be somebody who is a confidant, a friend, but maybe could be a lover, you know, I mean, a long-term relationship for you, but you don't see that person in that light at this time. Well, with the Ace of Wands, that can either mean that there is some kind of reason that you can't start a relationship with that person, or that you are involved in some kind of an affair and it is not really adding to your life. So again, this is not uncommon that somebody would, you know, be coming from a divorce and kind of like a rebound situation, get involved, but it's not something that's going to lead anywhere. So it's not really that big of a deal, but it's kind of symbolizing that it's a bridge more than an actual new beginning in your life. It's kind of like, you know, when you have a rebound situation, it's kind of like a remnant from your old life, because it's, you know, it's kind of a reaction to what you've been dealing with, not really moving forward per se. The advice is represented by the Five of Pentacles. This is a card of, you know, poverty consciousness, lack consciousness. So as advice, look at your life and see if this is lurking around in your psyche. If you have, Virgo, any part of yourself that is thinking in terms of, I don't have enough, I'll never have enough, I'm this age, I can't, you know what I mean? Whether it's financial now, with the Five of Pentacles, this is connected specifically to one's, whatchamacallit, their money situation. However, we can look at it in all aspects, okay? Going back to the scenario of, for instance, maybe this is, like I said, a probate issue for some of you with the Death card. The Five of Pentacles is a card of, you know, a person who has the mentality that there's never enough. This is, I don't know how many of you have this idea, but some of you will. I mean, this is not going to be just for one sign versus another. You are an earth sign, so I mean, on that level, you're very acclimated to material goods and things like that. So, for instance, if we're talking about an inheritance issue, you don't want to be grasping. You don't want to be the kind of person that turns greedy. Sometimes people, when they get involved in these issues, they lose all sense of their morals and their spiritual enlightenment because they start to think, that's not fair, I deserve this. And I can just tell you, as somebody who went through this myself and briefly got caught up in it, I really kind of like kept having these, you know, this resistance to dealing with it at a deeper level. I mean, I kept saying to myself, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And yet there was a part of me that didn't want to deal with lawyers and go through anything like that. So I just kind of surrendered to the situation and accepted what was the actual situation. And how I did that was I said, well, this person, I'm respecting their wishes. I have my own, you know, theory on why they, you know, made the will the way that they did. I don't think it was necessarily legitimate, but this is what they supposedly wanted. So I'm going to just accept it, you know? And that immediately gave me peace of mind. Doesn't mean that I never thought about it and was upset, but it like allowed me to move on with my life. So with the Five of Pentacles, sometimes when people have this opportunity to receive money, it can come in different ways. And then there's the potential that they would get less than they thought they were going to get. They can start to really become grasping and wanting more and almost believing that this is the only money that they'll ever get. You know, and this is problematic too. So just looking at it from that perspective of like how you feel like lack consciousness. And in terms of personal relationships, if you have gone through a divorce and maybe you're, you know, I'm saying specifically a divorce, like a legal situation because of the King of Swords. Now, this might be your ex. Maybe you were living together and you didn't actually have any kind of a legal interference. But he was just an air sign person. But in any case, you may feel this sense of like, will I ever find somebody else? Or maybe even materially. Now I'm not living the way I used to live because I'm on my own. And feeling that kind of change in your financial status. And it can be a transition. It can be jarring. But there can be other things that make up for it. So just keep that in mind. And don't focus on just one aspect of this. And it doesn't mean that whatever is going on right now is going to be true for you for the rest of your life either. Just remember that. The outcome is the King of Cups. This can be a relationship with somebody who is of the water element and very caring, also emotionally mature. It doesn't really necessarily have to be chronologically older than you, but if they are younger than you, they're wise beyond their years. So the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, which is your opposite sign. These are compatible. The water element is compatible to earth. You know, they always say that water nourishes the earth. So in any case, this can be a counselor. Maybe you're seeing a counselor to deal with some of your raw emotions. Maybe you are talking to a spiritual kind of a counselor, a pastor, a priest about this because you feel like, you know, if you're having conflicts with siblings or one of your parents, step-parents, it can be also very distressing because maybe you're seeing a side of them that you never saw before and you're like, wow. So anyway, Virgo, that's what I have for you. I hope that you got something from this. And if you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.